August 1977. Elvis Presley canceled Vegas shows worth $2.3 million. Headlines screamed, "Is Elvis done?" The public saw a bloated, exhausted legend barely completing concerts, prescription problems spiraling, health collapsing. Same week, he turned down the governor's charity request, an NFL halftime show, a primetime TV special. Manager Colonel Parker blocked everything. Elvis doesn't do hospitals, doesn't do personal appearances. Critics questioned if he could perform anymore. But what nobody knew, at 4 in the morning, Elvis was driving 240 miles through Arkansas backroads, acoustic guitar in the passenger seat, alone. Marion Keisker Memorial Hospital received an unexpected visitor at 6:43 a.m., a 19-year-old terminal patient wearing a hospital wristband with 24 hours written in marker. Her mother never told her she called Graceland, didn't want to break her heart with false hope. Elvis walked in with his guitar, no cameras, no witnesses, no proof. Why did the most famous man in the world risk everything for a secret no one would ever know? By noon, she'd be gone. But hospital staff would never forget what they heard that morning. By mid-1977, Graceland had become a fortress. Elvis Presley lived behind iron gates, 15-foot walls, and Colonel Parker's ironclad rules. The man who built an empire on making fans feel special now couldn't leave his house without chaos. He'd canceled 3 tour dates that summer. Health rumors spread through every tabloid, but prescription pills lined his bathroom counter like soldiers. The public saw wealth, fame, and a living legend. And what they didn't see, isolation, spiritual crisis, and a man reading books on karma at 3 in the morning wondering if any of it mattered. Parker's rule was absolute. No personal fan visits, no exceptions, business only. Elvis had filled stadiums for 20 years, but he hadn't touched a stranger's hand outside a controlled event in over a decade. Fame built on connection had become a prison of disconnection. The hospital wristband that would break that fortress was already being printed 200 miles away in rural Arkansas. Patient ID 4472 with 24 hours scrawled across it in black marker by a night nurse who didn't know she was counting down to something impossible. The call came at 2:47 a.m. on August 11th, 1977. Security guard Jerry answered an unauthorized line that shouldn't have been ringing. A nurse from Marion Keisker Memorial Hospital breaking every protocol. Her voice shook. 19-year-old girl, terminal leukemia, less than 24 hours to live. She'd been playing Can't Help Falling in Love on a cassette player for 6 straight hours, rewinding, replaying, crying. Her final wish, hear Elvis sing it live just once, before the end. Jerry knew the drill. Route to management, automatic decline, never reaches Elvis. Parker had rejected a dozen similar requests that month alone, but something in the nurse's voice, desperation mixed with resignation, like she was calling because she had to, not because she thought it would work. Jerry made a decision that could cost him his job. He walked upstairs to Elvis's bedroom, knocked twice. Elvis was awake, reading a book on Eastern philosophy, unable to sleep. Jerry told him about the girl, the hospital wristband with 24 hours written in marker, the cassette player stuck on repeat. Elvis stared at the ceiling for 30 seconds, then he stood up and grabbed his car keys. At 3:11 a.m., Elvis told his cousin, "Get the Cadillac, tell nobody." Not the tour bus, not the entourage, not the security detail that followed him everywhere since 1956. Just the white Cadillac and directions scrawled on a gas station napkin. This was the man who couldn't buy groceries without being mobbed, now planning a 240-mile drive through rural Arkansas alone. He thought about Colonel Parker, who would kill this the instant he found out. Parker built his career on control, every appearance, every calculated, every move monetized. every personal interaction filtered through contracts and PR strategy. Elvis had just canceled a $2.3 million Vegas residency because he could barely stand on stage, and now he was sneaking out like a teenager. But something about the story stuck in his brain. His mother Gladys died in 1958, heart attack, 46 years old. Her last words to him was, "Stay humble, baby, stay human." He'd been reading about karma, reincarnation, purpose beyond fame. What was wealth worth if you never used it to touch a single life? At 3:17 a.m., the Cadillac rolled through Graceland's back gate. No headlights until he hit the highway. No one saw him leave. Charted narrative progression for extended manuscript section. I'm now at 733 words total. I need to continue with Act 2, chapters 4-8, which should total around 1,400 words. Let me continue the narrative with the drive and the build-up to the hospital arrival. Elvis drove through darkness with the windows down. Hot August, air rushing in. Route 40 east, then smaller highways cutting through farmland and forgotten towns. By 4 a.m., he was deep in Arkansas backroads, nothing but crickets and the occasional truck stop. This was the man recognized everywhere, now anonymous in pre-dawn darkness. He carried an acoustic guitar in the passenger seat, prescription pills in the glove box, and directions to a hospital he'd never heard of. Real logistics mattered now. He avoided interstates where truckers might spot him, bypassed gas stations with fluorescent lights, took county roads where nobody looked twice at a white Cadillac. His hands shook from the pills. His body ached from years of abuse. Same month, he'd collapsed on stage in Louisville, nearly canceled the whole tour. But he drove 70 miles per hour through rural darkness toward a girl whose name he didn't even know. Halfway there, that fact hit him like a punch. He'd driven 120 miles to sing for someone whose name nobody mentioned. He didn't know if she was black or white, rich or poor, Southern or transplanted. All he knew, 19 years old, dying, and his music mattered enough to her that it was her final request. That was enough. At Marion Keisker Memorial Hospital, the mother sat in a hallway chair at 5:30 a.m., watching her daughter sleep through the window of room 217. She'd called Graceland 14 times that week. Every call intercepted by management, rerouted, blocked. She never told her daughter, didn't want to give false hope. Terminal leukemia doesn't care about wishes. The doctor said 24 hours, maybe less. They'd started preparing the morphine drip. End-of-life comfort protocols. The hospital wristband glowed under fluorescent lights. Patient ID, Mariah 472, and 24 hours written in black marker by the head nurse as a reminder for shift change. Medical code for imminent. The girl's last words before falling asleep. "Mom, I just wanted to hear him sing it once, in person, just once." The mother knew it was impossible. Elvis Presley didn't appear at small rural hospitals. He filled stadiums, commanded millions, lived behind walls. But she'd tried anyway, because what else could she do? At 6:39 a.m., she heard a car engine outside. Deep rumble, expensive sound, out of place in the gravel parking lot. She looked through the hallway window and saw a white Cadillac. A man in sunglasses stepped out holding a guitar case. She thought exhaustion was making her hallucinate. Then he walked through the automatic doors, and the night nurse gasped. Elvis walked into Marion Keisker Memorial Hospital at 6:43 a.m., wearing sunglasses, a white shirt, and carrying an acoustic guitar. The night staff froze. This didn't happen in real life. The mother in the hallway stood up, mouth open, thinking she'd lost her mind from 72 hours without sleep. Elvis pulled off his sunglasses, nodded to her. "Is she awake?" His voice was softer than on records, more Tennessee drawl, more human. The head nurse rushed over, checked his ID like he might be an impersonator. But it was him. Elvis Aaron Presley, August 11th, 1977, Graceland address on his driver's license. She whispered, "She has maybe 18 hours left." Elvis asked the question that made him realize how insane this whole thing was. "What's her name?" He'd driven 240 miles without knowing. The mother's voice cracked. Lisa Marie Thompson." Elvis stopped breathing for 3 seconds. His daughter's name was Lisa Marie. Born February 1968, 9 years old now, living with Priscilla in Los Angeles. He hadn't seen her in 2 months. The cosmic coincidence hit him like voltage. He teared up immediately, wiped his eyes, nodded slowly. Okay, let me go in." No cameras, no entourage, no press, just a man, a guitar, and a girl who shared his daughter's name dying in room 217. Elvis entered room 217 at 6:51 a.m. The girl was sleeping, thin under white sheets, hospital wristband visible on her left wrist. The Graceland poster, taped above her bed, showed him from 1956. Young, perfect, invincible. 21 years ago, a lifetime. He sat in the chair by her bed, didn't wake her yet, just watched her breathe. This was the inverse of his Vegas shows. No spotlights, no screaming, no 10-piece band. Just fluorescent lights humming and the smell of antiseptic mixed with dying flowers. He tuned the guitar quietly, thinking about his mother, his daughter, his own mortality. The doctor said his heart was failing. Too many pills, too much weight, too much everything. He'd ignored them all. But sitting here, watching this girl's chest rise and fall in slow rhythm, he realized something. Nobody had told him directly. He was dying too. Maybe not in 24 hours, but soon. The room smelled like the end. Antiseptic, approaching death, hospital sterility trying to mask what couldn't be masked. Elvis realized this might be his last real performance. Not the Vegas stage with hydraulic lifts and costume changes, but this. A girl, a song, a moment no one would ever know about. He started playing the opening chords to Can't Help Falling in Love, soft enough not to wake her, just practicing, getting it right. At 7:02 a.m., Lisa Marie Thompson opened her eyes. She saw Elvis Presley sitting 3 feet away with an acoustic guitar. For 5 seconds, she thought she was already dead. Morphine hallucination. Heaven preview. Dream bleeding into consciousness. Then he smiled, that famous crooked smile, and said, "Hey, Lisa Marie, I heard you wanted to hear a song." She started crying immediately. Couldn't form words, just tears streaming down her face. Her mother burst into the room from the hallway, equally shocked he was actually there, actually real. Elvis played the opening chords for real now. No microphone, no amplification, just his voice, raw, tired, more human than any record could capture. He sang Can't Help Falling in Love twice, then 3 times, then Love Me Tender. He would for gathered in the hallway, listening through the door crack, not believing what they were hearing. The most famous voice in the world, singing in room 217 of a rural Arkansas hospital at 7 in the morning for an audience of 1 dying girl. Between songs, Lisa Marie whispered, "How are you here?" Elvis smiled. "Sometimes you just gotta show up." He sang 14 songs total over the next 7 hours. Gospel hymns, early rock, ballads. He told stories between songs about his mother, about learning guitar, about the first time he performed on stage in Tupelo, Mississippi, 1945, 10 years old and terrified, orchestrated narrative structure across remaining acts. I'm now at about 1884 words total. I need to continue with chapters 9-11, act 3, 630 words, then chapters 12 to 13, act 280 words, to reach approximately 3,000 words. Let me continue with the hours Elvis spent there, the goodbye and the aftermath. Elvis stayed from 7 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. 7 hours, nobody knew he was there. He held Lisa Marie's hand between songs. She asked him about Graceland, about his favorite gospel hymns, about whether fame was worth it. Elvis got quiet on that last question. "Fame's easy," he said. "Staying human's the hard part." Around noon, he asked a nurse for a Sharpie. He signed Lisa Marie's hospital wristband directly on the plastic. To Lisa Marie, love, Elvis, 8/11/77. His handwriting shaky from the pills, but legible. That wristband became the only physical proof this ever happened. By 1:30 p.m., Lisa Marie was fading, drifting in and out of consciousness, but still smiling. Peaceful in a way her mother hadn't seen in months. Elvis played one final song, "How Great Thou Art," his favorite gospel hymn. When he finished, he leaned down and kissed her forehead. He whispered something nobody else heard. Then he stood up, nodded to her mother, picked up his guitar, and walked out through the back exit. No goodbye speech, no dramatic exit, just gone. He left the way he came, alone in a white Cadillac, disappearing into the afternoon heat. The staff watched through windows as he drove away. One nurse said later, "It was like seeing a ghost or an angel, something not quite real." Elvis drove back to Graceland in silence. 6-hour return trip, no music, no radio, just him and the road. He arrived at 8 p.m., parked in the back, entered through the side door. Nobody knew where he'd been. His cousin asked if everything went okay. Elvis just nodded. She heard the songs. That's all that mattered. He never told Colonel Parker, never told the press, never mentioned it to anyone outside the two people who knew he left. At 11:47 p.m. that night, almost exactly 24 hours after the original phone call, Lisa Marie Thompson died in room 217. Peaceful, painless, surrounded by her mother, and the memory of Elvis Presley singing 14 songs just for her. The hospital staff were sworn to silence by her mother. She didn't want a media circus, didn't want Elvis's reputation dragged into questions about why he was there, didn't want her daughter's death turned into tabloid headlines. The mother kept the wristband in a jewelry box, the only proof that the most famous man in the world had driven 240 miles to sing for a dying stranger. Elvis never mentioned it to anyone, not in interviews, not in private conversations, not in his final days. The secret stayed buried with both of them, almost. 6 days later, on August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley was found dead in his bathroom at Graceland. He was 42 years old. Heart failure caused by prescription drug abuse and years of physical deterioration. The world mourned. Hundreds of thousands of fans lined the streets of Memphis. Presidents, musicians, actors, everyone paid tribute to the king. But nobody knew about Arkansas. Nobody knew about the 240-mile drive, the 7 hours in room 217, the 14 songs sung for an audience of one. Lisa Marie Thompson's mother watched the funeral coverage on television, tears streaming, clutching the hospital wristband. She never told anyone, wanted to keep it sacred, private, unspoiled by media attention and public spectacle. The wristband stayed in her jewelry box for 40 years, proof of Elvis's last meaningful act, hidden from history. Elvis's cousin kept the secret too. When reporters asked about Elvis's final days, he said nothing about the hospital visit. Some secrets aren't meant for headlines. Elvis built an empire on making fans feel special, but spent his final years isolated by fame, trapped by success, disconnected from the humanity that made him famous in the first place. For 7 hours on August 11th, 1977, he remembered why he started. 40 years later, in 2017, Lisa Marie Thompson's mother was dying. Terminal cancer, same disease that took her daughter. She called a local journalist and told the story, produced the hospital wristband to Lisa Marie, love, Elvis, 8/11/77, ink, faded but legible. Hospital records confirmed. Patient Lisa Marie Thompson, terminal leukemia, admitted August 1977, died August 11, 1977 at 11:47 p.m. Elvis's cousin was contacted, now in his 70s. He finally confirmed the story. He came back different that day, quiet, at peace, like he'd done something that mattered more than any concert. The nurse who made the original call. I broke protocol. I knew I'd be fired, but I had to try. Didn't think it would work. Security guard Jerry. I walked upstairs, knowing I might lose my job. Something told me Elvis needed to know about her. The wristband was authenticated by Elvis Presley Enterprises. Ink's signature matched his handwriting from that week. Same Sharpie marker used on autographs from early August 1977. This was real. This happened. Elvis Presley's last performance wasn't in Vegas, wasn't on stage, wasn't for money or fame or screaming crowds. It was in a rural Arkansas hospital for a dying girl who shared his daughter's name. The untouchable star broke every rule to be human one last time. No cameras, no witnesses, no glory, just connection. Elvis built an empire on making fans feel special, but spent his final years isolated by walls, fame, and Colonel Parker's control. For 7 hours on August 11, 1977, he remembered the point. He remembered why his mother told him to stay humble, stay human. That one night, he chose humanity when it cost him everything to be seen. Lisa Marie Thompson got her wish. Elvis got something more valuable than any Vegas residency: redemption, purpose, proof that fame hadn't killed the person underneath. Neither of them knew they had days left. Both of them got what they needed. She heard him sing. He remembered how to connect. The hospital wristband now sits in Graceland archives, marked Last Private Performance, August 11th, 1977. The plastic band that started as a countdown, 24 hours, written in black marker by a night nurse, became proof of grace. The object that measured dying became evidence of living. Fame is easy, humanity is hard. Elvis chose humanity when it mattered most, and nobody knew until it was too late to thank him for it.